So recently, I was at the game section of my local Target, and nothing really caught my attention, no. But even more recently than that, I was staying at my girlfriend's house, and I went to her local Target, and I found these. The TF2 figures for Spy and Scout, which just so happened to be the last two I need. Like, they literally only had Scout and Spy, so that worked out. And I figured now that I have them all, why not make a video reviewing them? If you saw my community or Twitter post about me getting one of the most expensive pieces of TF2 merchandise, this actually has nothing to do with that. That box is still unopened and is actually right below this table. And I'm still not letting myself open it. But I can open these, so let's do that. On January 28th, 2013, the National Entertainment Collectibles Association, or NECA for short, or possibly NECA? I'm gonna say NECA because that sounds better, but that company released their first series of Team Fortress 2 action figures consisting of Pyro and Demo Man. And at the time, there was even a blog post written about it by Scout himself, who mistook them for a chubby firefighting and a one-eyed black version of himself, because there's no way NECA wouldn't make an action figure of the most popular class first. And hey, you could get them at Toys R Us. Oh. I guess it would make sense to start with the Series 1 figures first, because, they were first. And I got these two way back when they were first released. They retailed for around $20 to $25 US, however, they are no longer very easy to come across. And, we'll begin with Demo Man. Right off the bat, these unfortunately do not come with stands, and they can be a bit difficult to stand on their own. However, you can get the platforms online for pretty cheap. I got 10 of these for 15 bucks, and it works out fine. So these quote-unquote action figures are not really very action-y right out of the box. They are incredibly stiff and very hard to pose. But if you put the figures in hot water for a few minutes, it will loosen up the joints. And I originally only did this with Demo Man, but just for this video I did it with all of them, and I'm really glad I did, because out of the box, they're basically just statues that can kind of move their arms up and down. Even after that, they aren't crazy posable, and some joints will still be hard to move, but it's 100 times better. I would absolutely recommend doing that if you have them or plan to get them. Demo Man comes with all three of his stock weapons and three versions of a left hand. I guess you're supposed to be able to get him to hold a grenade launcher and sticky launcher with both hands, but that's not very easy. And swapping the hands out, particularly on Demo Man and Soldier, is super difficult. So I just make him have the bottle in one hand and the launcher in the other. The hands themselves are also incredibly stiff, it can be very hard to place things into them. You basically just have to jam the weapons between the fingers and it can be kind of awkward to do so. I've owned these figures for 7 years and luckily I haven't broken anything on them, but I also don't mess with them very much because of how stiff they are. Sometimes you need to use a lot of pressure to move things and it's probably not worth it. I tried to swap the hands out specifically for this video, and just attempting to do so I had to use way more force than I was comfortable with, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. The molding on the figures is all pretty well done. However, the paint jobs can vary a bit. My demo has a tiny bit of white on his mustache, and the grenades on his chest don't look too great, but from a distance it looks fine, and you could attempt to fix these flaws yourself if you're so inclined. But, you know, the details there, it does definitely look like Demo Man, and yes, he does have his smiley face, you can't not have that. One of the best parts about these figures is their weapons. They all look really good. The paint jobs are fine, and they all just look pretty nice, especially all together. Look at that! Look at that! They look exactly as you'd expect them to. And back to the actual figure, one complaint I have specifically about Demo Man is that even with the base, he can be kind of hard to stand. Since the figure's legs come so stiff, it usually means that once they're put on a stand, they have no problem staying upright. But for some reason, my demo kinda does. His legs are kind of wobbly, and his body armor makes him a bit top heavy, so he can be kinda hard to stand. It's like even in figure form, he's drunk. But as a whole, he's alright. Pyro looks pretty good. But how could you really screw up Pyro? Pyro comes with a fire axe and flamethrower, but no shotgun. I think the flamethrower in particular looks really nice, though it can be kind of difficult to actually get in Pyro's hands. And the Pyro's gloves kind of prevent you from moving its arms too much, which unfortunately kind of limits the amount of poses you could actually get the flamethrower in. The fire axe also cannot be held in both hands, at least I haven't been able to get it to do so. But you can make it look alright. And for some reason, Pyro's right glove has this little marking on it, and the left one does not. And it's not something that's visible in game. It's almost like maybe it was repurposed from another figure, but I really don't know. But the head looks pretty good, and it's fairly posable, and the whole thing is overall a good representation of Pyro. The joints on the upper legs are a little oddly positioned, but in a regular standing pose it looks fine. It's a pretty good figure, and I would say it's a bit better than Demoman as a whole. In December 2013, Series 2 was released, consisting of Heavy and Soldier. We'll start with Heavy because, Heavy's the best one. And he's actually rather hefty compared to the others. As he should be. He's a solid dude. And I think the molding and detail on him is a touch above the rest. The painting on the faces can get a little bit iffy, but on Heavy it looks good. And he actually has blue eyes. The other characters just have there's black, but Heavy has that extra little detail. He comes with a minigun, shotgun, and 2 sets of hands. Heavy's actually the only one that comes with a shotgun, and he's the only one that has hands made for it. But if you want to, you could try to cram the shotgun into the hands of the others. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could try. But the minigun looks amazing. It's great. If the figures didn't exist, I'd probably buy this on its own. For a reasonable price. It's basically a perfect replica of how Sasha looks in game. Unfortunately, the barrel doesn't spin, but that's fine. Unfortunately, like all of the figures, it's pretty difficult to actually get the gun in his hands. I'll usually settle for just getting it in one hand and kind of having the other hand placed over it. It looks okay. But luckily, Heavy's hands are actually easy to swap out. Since they're so big, they work differently than the others. Heavy's actual arms have the ball at the end, and his hands have the hole, instead of being the other way around like the other figures. And it just works out a lot better for him. And he looks really good holding the shotgun. You know, I might leave him like that for a while. His upper legs aren't really as movable as some of the other figures are, but that's pretty much just to support his weight, and you're probably not going to be moving them anyway. I really don't have any complaints about Heavy that can't be applied to the whole line of figures in general. I'm a bit biased towards Heavy, but I do think this is the best figure, and if you have no class preferences and could only get one, I'd get this one. Soldier is also a really good one. His medal is blue. Why is it blue? Well, like grayish blue. It's kind of weird how he has the Gentleman's Service Medal in general, when none of the other characters have any cosmetics on them. I guess it's relatively easy to paint over if you wanted to, but how do they mess that up? Other than that, I have no real complaints with Soldier either, aside from not being able to swap out his hands. So unfortunately I couldn't get a picture of him holding the shovel, but Series 2 is overall the best one I think. I'm not sure why, but it just seems like more care was put into Soldier and Heavy. Soldier even has eyes under his helmet, when they could have just had the helmet cover them entirely. He comes with both the rocket launcher and shovel, and 5 hands in total. That's a lot of hands, including 2 regular fists, which is nice. None of the other figures have that, not even Heavy, who has fists as an actual weapon. The joint in his torso also works decently too. Some of the characters have joints up there, but they barely do anything, and Soldier's actually, kind of bends. Also, both Heavy and Soldier can move their upper arms side to side. And that would benefit the others so much, but only these 2 have it. And aside from the out-of-place metal color, I think Soldier is really good too. It's not really a big deal on the blue version if you get that one, but it does bother me a bit on the red one. Overall though, I think Soldier's my second favorite, and he's also a really good choice if you could only get one. Series 3 was released not too much later, in April 2014, consisting of Engineer and Spy. However, for some reason, the blue versions weren't released until much later in July 2018, which is what I have here. I would have preferred to have them all in red, but these are what I found in the store, and I got them for the store price, so I'm okay with that. As I'm sure you've probably noticed, Engineer does still have a red toolbox, even though the figure is blue. It's kinda lame, but I guess they only made one version. I do like the toolbox a lot though. You could open it up and you could store things in there, and you could even put it in his hand. And in addition to that toolbox, Engineer comes with a pistol and a wrench. But there's literally no way you could get him to hold that pistol. It doesn't fit in that hand at all, and the other hand's just kinda open. But you can put it in his pocket, or in the toolbox. I do like Engineer a lot though. He's not as good as the previous 2, but he's solid. I think having goggles really helps him out, because you don't get that slightly off paint job that a lot of them have on their eyes. His stubble is a little bit too dark, but that's really not a big deal. My Engineer specifically has a loose neck joint, so his head can kinda come off. But we'll call that a feature. His glove hand has a separate ball joint underneath the glove, and that lets him move it around more freely, even if he can't move his wrist on that hand. It works pretty well, and I think that's something that would have benefited Pyro a lot. Engineer's knees are double jointed, easy to move, and still very sturdy, which is really good. And I think he has the best leg design as a whole. Even though these figures are all supposed to be part of a set, the way the joints work is just all over the place. The way the legs bend is different, the way the arms move, the number of joints, the way the heads connect, the way the feet connect. Demo, Pyro, and Soldier all have movable toes and the rest don't. It's weird. But yeah, I like Engineer, he's good. Spy, not so much. And that's mostly because of his face. I haven't seen a single version of him with a good paint job on his face. In fact, mine is better than a lot of them I've seen. Also, it's kinda hard to pull off something like Spy's suit in the style of these figures. It looks okay for what it is, but obviously it does have its limitations. And for some reason, the blue Spy's tie is black, but it doesn't really bother me that much because it is close enough to what it's actually supposed to be. The Spy comes with a revolver, knife, and sapper. And even his weapons are kind of lackluster. The knife is just kind of plain, and the wear painted onto the revolver doesn't look that great. The sapper, I like the sapper. Looks neat. But you can't really make him hold it. He comes with an extra hand intended to hold it, but there's no way to get it to stay. Also, look at the size difference between Heavy's hands and Spy's hands. Look at that. One good thing I have to say is that it actually is pretty easy to swap out the hands. But as a whole, Spy is my least favorite, and I knew going into buying him that he would be. In fact, I saw him at Target twice before this, and I passed on him both times up until now. He's really just kind of mediocre in general, but a good paint job on the face would make him way better. And finally, Series 4 was released, actually not that long ago, in October 2018. More than 4 years after the previous wave. I actually remember hearing that they were cancelled, which is why I was kind of shocked when I saw Sniper and Medic in the store, but no, they exist. They're right here, you're looking at them. And this series obviously consists of the remaining 3, Scout, Sniper, and Medic. Scout is my favorite of the series. I like him, he's about Engineer tier. And he comes with the scattergun, pistol, and bat. Also like Engineer, there's no way you're getting that pistol into his hands. The pictures show him with it, but it's just way too chunky to fit in there. I feel like it'll break his thumb if I try. Interestingly, Engineer and Scout's pistols are actually slightly different. Engineer's has a brownish handle, while Scout's is more gray. And unfortunately, Scout doesn't come with a separate hand to hold the bat. You could put it in his gun hand, but it only looks sorta natural with his arms down. For some reason, none of the final wave come with extra hands. It's weird. Scout is very light and thin compared to the others, and it works out well. He's decently posable, and he can even move his body at the waist. Scout's, he's pretty decent. I just got him, but I like him, he's good. And that brings me to my second least favorite. Man, what a disappointment. Medic could have been really cool. I mean, with Spy, you can't really expect that much, but just based on how Medic looks and what weapons he has, he should have made for a much better action figure, but he's just not really that good. The painting on his face doesn't look that great, and his head is just straight up too small. Maybe when he's on his own it doesn't look that weird, but compared to the others, it's definitely a little bit too small. And it bothers me. The weapons, of course, are really good, and he does come with all 3, which is nice. But unfortunately, there's no way to disconnect the minigun from the backpack, so you basically always have to have him hold it, or maybe have it weirdly off to the side. And you see how he's holding the minigun in this picture? With his left hand on the bottom handle? That's how he holds it in game, and they're showing a picture of him holding it that way. But there's absolutely no way you could possibly get it in that hand. I tried really hard. And you know what? I broke the handle. Remember how I said earlier how I never broke anything on these figures? Well, it was true when I wrote it. I had it glued and it's fine now, and the handle actually fits pretty perfectly into his right hand. I'm pretty sure as far as the toy was designed, it's supposed to go into the right hand, but the fact that they have it in his left hand in the picture, and it doesn't fit, that annoys me. So if you're wondering why I haven't moved his arms or anything very much, it's because I don't want to break the handle again. He's gonna be stuck in this pose forever now. Does the syringe gun even fit into one of his hands? I don't know, maybe. But I'm not gonna try. It's not worth it. The Medic figure had a lot of potential, but he doesn't really live up to it. It's disappointing. But we'll end things off with a bang of mediocrity. Sniper is just the blandest one. He looks okay. And no, he does not come with the sunglasses. I wish he did. In fact, I think it would have been a better idea if they just had the sunglasses completely cover his eyes to where you can't see them. He looks dead on the inside. And not having visible eyes really helped Engineer out, I think. And they could have gone that route with Sniper, but they didn't. Also, for some reason, his undershirt and glove are both black instead of white and brown, respectively. It's just kind of lazy, I guess. And Sniper only comes with his sniper. I've had this figure since like July 2019, and I just noticed that the flippy cover thing is here. I like that. And I like the sniper rifle in general, but I do wish he came with another weapon. And according to this picture, he's supposed to be able to hold the gun in both hands. Can he, though? No, not really. Yeah, he's just alright. I think they cut a lot of corners with Sniper. He does look good on the shelf with the others. And yeah, they all look pretty good together. And that's kind of these figures in general. Like, if they're on a shelf, they look nice, but once you get up close and start looking at them, you start noticing things that are off. But they do look good together. Are they worth the $20 to $25 they cost? Yeah, sure, absolutely. If you could find them for that price. And in addition to getting the figures and the weapons, you also get a class portrait card. And I like these a lot. They're just the class portraits we've seen before, but they're mini. And they're cool, I like them. And while not necessarily a feature, the artwork on the back of the boxes is really nice. I actually kept them all. It shows the class descriptions and their names and some other details. And interestingly, both Medic and Scout's names are listed as unknown, but by the time these figures came out, we already learned their names. At least partially. Also, Sniper's real name is listed as Mick Mundy, which is really interesting because that's unique to this figure. It could be what Sniper's adoptive parents named him, but we really don't know if that's canon. I would have mentioned it in the Sniper history video, but obviously the figure hadn't come out at that point, so I couldn't have. Also, I believe Demoman's description is new for this figure. I don't think it's from anything else, but you could correct me if I'm wrong. And lastly, on the back of the cards are codes to redeem in-game items. The red Pyro comes with a genuine Brigade helm, blue Pyro comes with a genuine Respectless rubber glove, red Demoman with a genuine Glengarry bonnet, and blue with a Scotsman stovepipe, red Heavy comes with the Officer's Ushanka, blue Heavy with a Tough Guy's toque, red Soldier with a Tyrant's helm, and blue Soldier with a stainless pot, red Engineer with the Engineer's cap, and blue Engineer with the Texas 10-gallon, red Spy with the Backbiter's billycock, blue with the camera beard, red Scout with the bonk helm, and blue Scout with the ye old Baker boy, red Medic with the autolaryngealous mirror, blue Medic with the vintage Tyrolean, and red Sniper comes with the Master's yellow belt, and blue Sniper comes with the Professional's Panama. All in genuine quality, which is unique to the figures. So, how are the TF2 NECA figures as a whole? If I'm being completely honest, they're just okay. I like them because they're TF2 figures, and there's nothing really else like them. But as actual action figures, they're just okay. At the suggested retail price of $20, you're getting what you paid for, and if you could find them in the store for that price, I think they're worth it. And yeah, that's my review of the TF2 figures. In conclusion, they're TF2 figures. Okay, bye.